It says I'm live, so I better start speaking. And you never know, I'd been doing some vocal exercises to warm up. It doesn't sound like it, does it? Oh dear. Anyway, welcome aboard, everyone. And for another virtual collage, another another virtual collage jam on a Monday. And yeah, if it's if you're not with us today live, it's a beautiful day out there. Not as warm as the last one, but it's looking pretty gorgeous out my window. So I completely understand if you'll pick us up on the replay. However, we do have our one faithful. Hello, Rebecca. How are you? Nice to have you along, and thank you for getting things out at the last minute. Nice to have you aboard. And is Kirk joining us today? Probably not, right? But anyway, um, so what is news? I should tell you guys that that we sent. Well, I and we sent Kim off. She's probably en route to Vancouver now. Now en route to Seoul. So she's going to Vancouver and staying there a couple of days, and then heading on to Seoul. And she was so excited, and so yep, dropped her off, and we're hopeless. Like I stayed by the where the non-passengers could sort of keep getting glimpses, and we kept waving and until she was out of sight. So yeah, of course, Rebecca, that's awesome. I'm glad you were feeling like joining us today. That's awesome. I know you're usually in the trenches, so not always do you want to actually it's kind of like a work day and some, but I hope you can just take it as a play date. So are you planning on doing some collaging, Rebecca, or some or something else creative? Or something else creative? Sorry. So yep, so Kim is off for her trip, which is awesome. And what else is news? There's actually not a lot of news. That's oh, but there are a couple of collage things that are that are worth worth mentioning if I can actually say them. First of all, that's exciting is I don't know whether I mentioned that I am doing a commission for Halliburton School of the Arts, where I think a bunch of virtual collage jammers have taken a course or a workshop, and I know Rebecca studied there in a program. So so they they have asked me to do they do a course catalog every year, a print one. The print one is actually not really so needed anymore, but they used to print thousands and thousands of copies, and now now a lot of people get their course information online, which makes sense, but they still do print them. And so they asked me if I would be willing to do a collage of they have these iconic red doors. If you've ever been to Halliburton School of the Arts, you'll know the ones. They're really beautiful, and they're sort of sculptural. They're completely red. They have a lovely inscription on them that says, within these walls, the walls within fall away or disappear. And I love that quote because I think that's that's sort of what art can do for people, and usually does. And so because learning art is so much more than learning technique, right? Technique's important, but it's about learning to express yourself, about self-discovery, about self-expression. I think it's really this it it's the closest I can think of in my personal experience to like soul alchemy for just getting at what matters, especially if you're an artist, right? So so yeah, so I'm going to be working on that. They want it, and I need to get it done in the next couple of weeks. They want it for early November. So I have an idea. I think I'm going to approach it with decollage, but yeah, so I'm going to start working on that in the next few days. Well, I'm going to start actually tonight, but I'm going to be working on it intensively over the next couple of weeks. Rebecca says she's got groceries coming in the middle, but hopefully get some work on pottery done. Oh yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. It is a cool gig. Xavier, who's the dean there, asked me, and I said I'd be delighted. I'd really love to do it. So they're going to use it not only um, for the catalog cover, but they'll use it in other marketing purposes, and maybe probably that includes some online things. So yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm looking. I'm I I'm looking forward to working on the project as well. I've done some commissions in the past that I've sort of been excited, but also trepidatious about. And, they work out just fine. But, like sometimes it's like, yeah, this is going to be a challenge. And this is going to be a challenge too, but I'm kind of excited in a positive way rather than a sort of biting my nails sort of way. So yeah, which I think is always a good way to be. So maybe I'll be biting my nails after I've been into it for a little while. So I'll get working on collage in just a minute. But the other thing that I should pass along is that I don't know whether I've told collage jammers, you guys, that I got chosen to be one of the visual artists at Fashion Art Toronto again this year, which is great. I first did it 2 years ago in fall winter 2023. So I I purposely didn't apply for a couple of years because I want to give other artists the chance, and um I figure better not to wear out my welcome, even if they wanted to have my work. So yeah, so that's exciting. I pitched them on a few ideas, but the main thing that they're gonna take me up on this time is some of the very large scale enlargements that I did for Station Gallery because they're reusable, which is awesome. Um, and a fashion show is a very especially that one because it's got art exhibits. It's a kind of more is more energetic, larger than life kind of situation. So so having the big work I think will be good. So yeah, thank you. um no, that was for the earlier one, but anyway. um so I'm going to switch to my overhead camera. Our optional prompt is Flutter today. So um, I think when I chose it, I was thinking that I was imagining autumn. This is a time for falling leaves. And so that's what I did for the YouTube still, the for the video. But I think what I'm going to work with is some butterflies because another course that I'm teaching is um, collage or nature in collage and mixed media. And for that, I'm working on like the students are working on what they're working on, but the current project that we're working on in that class is pick a location that is of interest to you, and it could be something very specific like your backyard or an alpine meadow, or it could be more like an area like Antarctica or an island or an ecosystem, and do work around it. So, um, so what I was doing was I I have formative years paddling up in um, out from my cottage when I was growing up in Halliburton. So something I really treasure is memories of paddling through small lakes and ponds where there was no one else around, right? So all you heard was wildlife. All you saw was wildlife. The canoe would be cutting through like lily pads and floating gardens, and you'd see beaver, you'd see frogs, you'd see um, lots of insects, obviously. Once you're out on the water, not too many mosquitoes, but the portages they were waiting for you. Um, so I started working with that, and then I thought, "Oh, well, butterflies are definitely a factor for that as well." So I'm going to work on some collages of butterflies because butterfly is actually the original English word, I believe, was flutterby, and it got changed. So, um, hello, Philippa. Nice to have you along. And Joy. Woohoo! We have joy. I mean, we always have joy, but now we have joy incarnate from BC. So nice to have you along, Joy. I'm glad you were able to get on. That's awesome. I know you were trying last time and you couldn't get it, but um, good for you for excuse me for figuring out what was amiss. That's awesome. So I'll switch to the overhead camera and work on that. And Maria, awesome. Hello, how are you? Yeah, thank you, Maria. And so we've got a few people um, joining us now, which is great. And pop in the chat what you're planning on working with. It's the prompts are always optional. They're just in case it's like, oh, that sounds like something I'd like to play with. Great. And if it's like, no, but I have this other project I'd love to do, that's totally fine. We're working creatively together, right, around this sort of virtual table. So my corner of the table, I'll be collaging. Rebecca's, she'll be working on a little pottery, and like we'll be doing it together, which is awesome. So let us know what you're if you're working with the prompt or on another project. And while you do that, I'll switch the camera over and get this party started. So just going black for a minute here. Do not worry about it. Always better than than making you seasick with the camera lurching around to get it into my overhead holder. There we are. Just a little more. Seems to be at a little bit of an angle there. Like that, and maybe more forward. I think that's what we need. That's looking that's looking at least a little more square. All right, so so what I did beforehand was I printed out some references of these are swallowtail butterflies, and they can apparently sometimes switch to this darker. And I remember seeing these in Halliburton for sure. I mean, I looked for Ontario species, so so that, and then of course the everyone's favorite butterfly, the monarch. So, but I liked these two shots because they had sort of different angles, and I was thinking that famous last words, right? You know, I'm always biting off more than I can chew, but I thought it'd be nice to pick a few different flight angles so that I could do a few butterflies. And then with the course, what we're doing is creating little components that we can then place the way we want to. So into a broader context. So shots like this, I think can be very useful for getting like, oh, this one's great because you're just seeing the wings on edge. This is more quintessential, right? But these are a little bit different angles. So having a few different angles would be good, and a couple different species. So, you know, I start off thinking, oh, won't it be great if I do like a few butterflies? And if I know myself, which I'm getting to gradually I'll be like, I'll get one done because I'll start getting into the details. So my mission is going to be to try to keep it, to simplify it sufficiently that I can actually get a few done. So whether I can do that or not, we'll see. So, so the first thing I'll be doing is rating my orange drawer and my yellow drawer. And it looks like I'll need my blue drawer as well for the swallowtails. And then it will be a case of how do I do that simply? And I may fall back on a little bit of a mix of collage and maybe a little bit of marker to so that I don't drive myself crazy. I do love taking on something that would be easier to draw, but taking it on in collage for the challenge of it. But I may I may not quite do that. All right, let's see. So Philippa says, oh, cool. Philippa is going to be sewing when she warms up. She went out for a walk and the wind got her, right? Yeah, no, it's quite blustery and it's beautiful and sunny, but it's not that warm, is it? So yeah. All right, so I'm going to gather just a few. Well, let's start with the swallowtail. The monarch is so ubiquitous. I'll start with one that's just a little bit less so. So it's kind of a warm, not full intensity, lightened yellow. So I'll look for that, and then a black, and I might even look. I might even look for black that has a little bit of interest to it. So maybe from a photograph rather than just a sheet of black. I may use a sheet of black too. I'll see what I've got and see what seems good once I've got underway. All right, so I've got a range of blacks. I definitely have some just solid black paper too. Grab one of those as well. All right. Something I enjoy about collage is like looking for the color that's sort of approximately right. Whether I'm looking on solid sheets of color like this one, or like these, or in photographs. Sometimes the hunt in photographs is actually more fun. Photographs or unexpected places. So I will, oh good, it has decided to focus again. All right. I will, it's because I'm moving things around above the desk. So once I've done pulling paper, I'll make sure it's focused. It's kind of funny, but something that I've been shoving in my bins are these are sometimes are test prints of my own collages. So that's just a little fragment of something that was much larger, but it's got a yellow that I kind of like. And so it's funny. It's kind of self-referential, but not really, because no one will know. But it is kind of funny having pieces of your own work in your collage bin. I'm not sure I like it, but why not, right? Oh dear. So for at Station Gallery, when I did the show there, I wanted to make a central sculpture, and I wanted to use old prints of my collages, and so that was kind of strange, like working three-dimensionally, recombining collages that were already recombinations of other images, but it actually was kind of fun. It was, I kind of thought it would be like, oh, I've already sort of done what I needed to do to this image. But it was fun to then see if I could change them again to see what I could turn them into. So all right, so I'm going to look at these butterflies and see what I can think to what makes sense for a way to approach it. like what would be interesting from a collage point of view, but also expedient, but also kind of fun and interesting. So that's the challenge. I'm all right. So I'm going to try one approach and just see how it goes, and that is um, taking the black paper and cutting the silhouette, and then cutting out the pieces uh, that will be yellow and slipping yellow underneath. Um, it might or might not work, um, but I think it's worth a kick. So, all right. So it's and I've got lots of yellows to play with here when I get to that point. Yellows, golds. Like this is a brownish one, a painted one. This is like some kind of a background, but you can see how it's somewhat analogous to the sort of goldy colors in this. So whether or not that will actually go in there or not, I'm not sure. But I have options, and now I'll just sort of set them aside until we're ready for them. So I guess the question will be, do I cut out a few silhouettes and then go? I might. And then the next question is, I'm tempted to try and make them this small, but I think that I should know better because, yes, I like to cut out finicky little things, but that's going to drive me crazy. So I'm going to try to scale them up a little bit. And so I'll try and make them at least, like if that one's, I don't know, like 3 inches across. Yeah, 3 1/4. I will try and make it 5 inches so that it's just a little bigger. All right, just before I dive in on that, I'll see what you guys are saying here. And of course, our naturalist Rebecca says, I've seen at least 3 species of swallowtail in Toronto. Yes, when I was so first I Googled what butterflies are in Algonquin Park, because that's sort of not far from where my childhood cottage was. Swallowtail was the second one after monarchs. And then I found out, oh, actually, there are quite a number of swallowtails. So, yeah, so you would, that's so cool. It's another thing that's nice about this project that I'm doing with my class for me is that I I've sort of fallen off. Like when I was younger, I would say up until my early 20s or maybe even 30, I was quite interested in natural phenomena. I loved being in nature, but unfortunately, I've become more of a city person and I haven't got to much enough time in nature, so it's kind of um fallen by the wayside, which is not something I like. I prefer to I love I love nature. I love being in nature. I grew up liking to identify species and stuff like that. So it's allowing me to become a little bit to reconnect with it a little bit, which is nice. And I know Rebecca's is an avid naturalist. So um, Philip says, I misjudged what to wear. Yesterday was so warm. Yes, yes, and it's definitely it's chillier out there, and when you've got a breeze, if you haven't got something to cut the wind, it really gets to you. So um, Joy says, no butterflies here today, overcast and rainy, but nice to think of them and a summer day. Yeah, well, you are milder out there than we are probably, but it is getting late in the season for butterflies, isn't it? Michelle. Hey, how are you, Michelle? Awesome. Um, Michelle says she's going to work on homework for tomorrow's class. Awesome, which is an abstract portraiture class through Nielsen Park. So that's going to be fun. and and Mia, hello, Mia. How are you? Nice to have you back. It's been a while. She says, I got lost collaging fluttering maple leaves on a jelly plate and missed the beginning. That's completely all right. What a great way to start. Jelly plate printing is perfect. So, yeah, fluttering maple leaves. It does it get more Canadian, more autumnal than that? I don't think so. Susie Danilon, oh my goodness, how are you? Nice to see you, quote unquote. Hola to you too. I'm so tickled. Susie, everyone, was I think the first collage courses I taught were at Nielsen Park, and I think Susie took the first one I taught. So, so wow, that's a nice sort of full circle moment having you back, Susie. And so, Susie, are you cooking or are you arting today? Or are you doing a bit of both? All right. So something something that I could do, but I'm not going to, is draw it out ahead of time. Um, for better or for worse, just launch in. I'm going to try to draw with my knife, and if it's not quite right, it will have to do. I still do worry disproportionately about proportion. That's a pretty funny way to put it, isn't it? But I used to angst so much when I was younger about it because I really I could see detail, I could see light and shade, so I was good with those things, but I could never get proportion the way I wanted it to. It was always a sort of a weak area. I got better, but it's still a bit of a challenge. And if you don't practice it, you don't get better at it. So, um, if it really mattered to me more, what I could do is I could do a drawing first and revise, like do a bit of fine tuning in terms of, no, that wing's actually a bit longer, it's more at that angle, etc. But I'm not going to. I'm going to launch in and hope that it works out reasonably well. All right. Yep, and one of these wings is definitely a bit longer at this angle than the other one, but I seem to have exaggerated it a little more so classic. But that's just the way it's going to be. What it ends up being a bit like is a continuous contour drawing where you launch right into drawing the contour rather than mapping it out first. So it gets a little wonkier, but I am going to turn up the corner of my page a little bit so that I have something to move it around with a little more easily. It's so flat, sometimes I have trouble adjusting where the page is. Right, so around there is where, or thereabouts, is where it switches from these sort of bigger scallops to the smaller ones. And along there, it's actually just, I'm just going to wiggle my blade a little bit. It doesn't even look like much of a scallop at all. And this butterfly's had a little damage to its wing because the other wing doesn't have that chunk out of it. Well, I'll do my best to immortalize them in safer, complete form rather than with the mishap that they obviously had. I'm looking on my black and it's got these little tiny flecks of green, and it's because my cutting mat is so old. I'm cutting it and it's sort of breaking up and coming through the cuts. But at first I was like, what is that? All right. Oftentimes you can just sort of tear out the, if it's not quite cut perfectly, you can tear the shape out, but if you're dealing with very fine antenna like these, I wanted to make sure that I had actually cut them properly, because otherwise they'll just tear off. And they still may. All right, one silhouette, definitely chunkier than the sample. Sorry to go quiet. I was just focusing on some fine cutting. Where's my Kim color commentary when I need her, eh? Well, Joy, I think you joined us a little bit after I said that she's actually en route to Vancouver, and then heading on further to Seoul, Korea. But that's why she's not here today. All right, so that's the head. And then like down here would be where the tail, or well, not so much tail as the end of the wings, I guess. There's a little gap between the wings, so I'll cut that out as a reference point. And then work from there. So then we have this is such an extreme view, right? Like you very rarely see butterfly wings on like so obliquely, which makes it quite memorable, which I really like that. You know, you search online for reference images, right? And you'll usually come across the more conventional, right? Like this, or maybe the straight on side view, like that. But the sort of interesting 3/4 angle or any kind of unusual angle makes it much more fun, especially if you're going to have several of them flying around, right? It's nice to have in various different angles, different parts of the wing beating pattern. All right, and the further up we go, yeah. So when we get to about where the head is, it looks like it stops being the big sort of scallops and just the very micro-y ones. So sort of a pointed rounded tip, and then a Yeah, I think I haven't made the wing skinny enough. It should be skinnier than I've got it here. But I could change that a little bit by just recutting it a little skinnier. So I'm going to try that. Yeah, I think that's better. This other wing done. This wing is just ridiculously skinny, which will be a challenge to actually make myself do it that way, but I'm going to do my best. All right, so a little detail here, a very skinny gap to the swallowtail part, and it's kind of down at an angle like that. And then the scallops, but they're very oblique. So let's see. And I'm just flipping my flipping my reference upside down and my cutting upside down so I can get a better feel for how that goes. Because mine are for now only black, they feel more like bats than butterflies. So it's kind of fun. As is usually the case when I draw or when I collage something that's a natural subject, I look at what nature has done and whether it's a person, whether I'm doing figure drawing or an animal or a butterfly. I always look at the original and think, yeah, you can improve on nature. It always looks beautiful and right, and yeah, which is that's kind of a challenge for working with natural subjects because do you want to be a camera or do you want to be expressive? And I kind of think that by approaching it the way I do without sort of drawing it academically first, that it allows a little more of me to show through. But I always have to sort of get past my second guessing about my the original is so much more beautiful than what I've made. But and maybe that's true, but maybe these are the ones I need to make, right? So I'll just check in on your comments in a sec here. Susie says she's been collaging with jelly plate prints while glamming. Right now, I'm painting acrylic on canvas. Awesome. Jelly plate and, glamoing. That's not a phrase I'm familiar with. Oh, glamping. Yeah, yeah, okay, got you. You're doing where are you, glamping? That's fun. Yeah. So, glamping is swish camping, so comfy camping as Kim calls it. Um, Mia says, "Gosh, your butterflies are gorgeous, and you're a master cutter." Oh, well, um, yeah, don't compare, right? Um, Mia is saying, "My hands are not as nimble as they used to be," and um, I will hasten to point out that it's more about the artist and less about their dexterity. Of course, I treasure my dexterity, but um, good God willing, and the creek don't rise. It doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen for a long time. But if these hands of mine suffer an injury or um, become arthritic, I will do the best that I can with what I have. And I actually feel, and I wouldn't wish it on me or anyone else, but I know many, many examples of artists who um, made made remarkable work um, despite significant challenges physically. So, a couple that come to mind right away, just so that I think it's important for us to realize that um, artistically, the biggest, like you would say, okay, well, what are Cat's tools, right? The Cat's tools are a knife and paper and glue stick, right? No, yes, that is one sense my tools, but the tool that's most important is the one that's up there between my ears, right? And um, also beating in my rib cage. um, uh, Matisse, when he was older, his eyesight was failing, so he took up collage. He made super simplified, very bold graphic collages, and um, because that's what he could see. He shifted away from painting with nuances of color and gradations and fine detail because his eyes couldn't see that anymore. But he could see shapes he cut out of bright colors with sharp edges and big shapes that he collaged. And so instead of an artist saying, in his shoes, which he could have, oh, I've achieved a lot, but I can't seem to do it anymore. He said, I'm going to now shift the way I make my work. And there becomes this whole body of work later in his life that is gorgeous, very different, and it's simpler, it's bolder, but it's still Matisse, and it has visual sophistication, and it's actually some of my favorite work of Matisse. Another another example of this same kind of thing is there. If I don't know if you know Mia, if you know Chuck Close, he's he must be getting getting fairly up there now because he first started work. He burst on the scene in the 60s or early 70s with very large scale, hyper realistic paintings, like photorealistic of people. And then I think, I don't know, like 15 or 20 years into his career, he had a stroke. And um, it I don't think it affected his brain, but it paralyzed him significantly. And so he had to like tape or strap a paintbrush to his hand. And so he said, okay, well, that's the way I work now. And I don't have that control to do the tiny stuff. But he then started doing all these very interesting abstractions that um, I think he was already starting to head that way, but it quite literally forced his hand. And so he went from something that was amazing dexterity to something that became amazing artistically. Um, if you're not familiar with him, his name is Chuck, and the last name is Close, just like Glenn Close, or like you and I are standing close together. And look at his work. It's the body of work that he has produced is remarkable, and a lot of it was after his stroke. So um, while I don't wish any of that on anybody, there is always a way. There is often a way. There's often a way to make lemonade out of the lemons, right? And then it just becomes another opportunity rather than a we can acknowledge it's how unfortunate it is while still seeing, oh, but I could still do, or I could try, or what about, right? So some of you guys are artists at Nielsen Park, and Marg Byerly is an artist that a lot of us know, and she's prolific, and nothing stops her. She's had some terrible falls. She has really awful, debilitating arthritis, and she just keeps making work. And she just keeps getting better and keeps getting more interesting. And because she has this indomitable spirit that she's like relentlessly curious, right? And these are the things that feed us, right? And help us keep going in the face of adversity. So I hope I hope, Mia, that comes across as something that feels inspiring. Not it's not meant to sound like a lecture. It's just meant to be, there are always opportunities. So yeah, definitely welcome up, Mia. Yeah. Does anyone else in the group know of some people, some artists who have overcome adversity to make either more interesting work or to overcome obstacles? I always find those stories inspiring. So if anyone has any they'd like to share, that would be awesome. No pressure, though. We don't always. All right. Do this butterfly next. I am going to, I think, cut out one more, and then I'll switch into adding detail to the ones that I've got, and try and add detail selectively. So it is true that for the time being anyway, I do enjoy doing some fine and careful cutting, but as my eyes are struggling with seeing the cut line black on black, I kind of feel like maybe it's a limited time opportunity. Who knows how much longer I'll be doing that? My eyes are they're still pretty good, but they are not as sharp as they used to be. That's for sure. So it's got sort of a round bit there. And then we get the first little scallop. And then we get a very big scallop. That's interesting. On this particular photograph, the swallowtail part of this butterfly's wing is twisted, so it's going to be tricky not to because it comes to a tiny little point where it flips over. So I have to make sure I'm going to try not to cut it, cut right through, and still make it look like it's twisting. I always think that it's the most important thing as an artist is to make work, because that's how you advance, that's how you develop your thinking, that's how you build your whatever skills you're building, right? Whether it's technical skills or color theory or conceptual development, any of these things. But I also think it's really important to have artists that we find inspiring. So, um, and to it can be helpful to find artists that inspire you, but because their story has something to teach you. Um, I've had, I feel like I'm in the best place mentally of my life, but I've definitely had struggles with depression um, throughout my life. And while I'm in a great place now, I know that it won't be forever, and before I have another bout. But so I always find it inspiring to find artists that have overcome things, because then I can feel like, okay, so I have things I'm trying to overcome, and they inspire me. So um, or just the way they work inspires me. So um, I'm just trying to think about who has inspired me. Um, I mean, obviously, those two I mentioned already have. And if you guys have artists that you admire their story, that that would be a great place, uh, I can't. I'm trying to walk and chew gum. If you have a name or two of an artist that inspires you, drop it in the comments and let us know who they are and why they inspire you. I've been listening to the Great Women Artists podcast, which Katie Hessel, I think, is the host of it, and it started in I don't know, at least several years ago, and she interviews curators and artists about women artists, either historically or contemporary, and it's a real eye opener, right? Because for so much of art history, patriarchy has meant we haven't learned about artists, even women artists. So, and I'm not pulling their names back, but I've listened to maybe I don't know, 30 episodes, and each one of them, not every one of them, some of them are contemporary artists, which is great too. I'm very interested in contemporary artists, but hearing the stories of people who made art, for instance, in the 20s, in the 40s through the war, how they were ostracized or ignored or discounted, and despite that, these women kept to their practice, and the guys who reached a certain degree of notoriety would get accolades, but the women who were equivalent in what they were doing, or maybe even superior, we don't know who they are. And so I really appreciate art historians who are trying to redress that now. I mean, I wish that they had acknowledgments of their talent then, but at least something like this podcast can at least go some ways towards pointing out that, there is no inherent gender issue with artistic talent, right? Opportunity, yes. Like how many of them struggled to, they weren't admitted to, weren't allowed to study where at the most prestigious art schools or institutions, and yet how did they do it, right? So, and I don't know if you're hearing that dinging, but that's Kim saying she's landed in Vancouver, so that's good. Always good to have the first leg of the journey safe. Right, where am I going? Am I heading in the right direction? Okay, I think I still am, more or less. Like 4 scallops, so one more. And this one's kind of a funny little one, but that's good. And then we've got yeah, it should be further than that, shouldn't it? All right, because I got to come up there. All right, and that's where the wings separate. On a different note, you heard me just sort of talking to myself out loud as I tried to figure out where that wing was going. And that reminded me of the fact that doing anything like this where we actually get to study something, whether you're drawing or painting or collaging, when you're working from a subject, as I am here, it helps you more truly appreciate the subject, right? Because I can look, if I just looked at that picture online and like I was learning about these butterflies and I looked at them a little bit, I get a sense of what they looked like, right? But because I'm now looking more intently, because I'm actually trying to figure out the shapes and replicate them to some extent, it forces me to look much more closely. And I think, and when you look more closely at a subject, you appreciate it more. And I think that is also one of the big gifts of art, of being an artist, right? Is you, just through the practice of your work, you appreciate the world so much more. In this case, I'm appreciating a butterfly, but when I'm trying to figure out what colors to recreate a sky, I'm doing the same thing. It's a different, but another way of appreciating the world. When I'm looking at images of a person, or even like a beautifully designed product, whatever, all the myriad things, beings, things, phenomena in the world, by looking at them to try and understand how to paint them, how to collage them, how to draw them, you look more intently, and therefore you appreciate more intently. And what a gift that is. I mean, really, honestly. All right, I'm trying to, now I'll try and get this butterfly out and make sure these antennae are properly cut through. So I don't end up leaving them behind. Yep, it's happened. I broke one of the antennae off. Oh well. It was bound to happen. All right, the one antennaed all right, so how to fix this? So I'll show you one way to get around it, and that is to flip it over and put a piece of tape that holds it back in place, and then cut around the piece of tape. Generally speaking, I prefer Scotch tape, but I don't seem to have any, so I am going to use masking tape for this. The reason I prefer Scotch tape is it's, oh dear, we are having a focus issue here, aren't we? Sorry about that. I don't know, it feels a little more robust at small sizes, that it's plastic, sort of plasticized. But I'll see whether I can make this work. The trick is that, especially with this works great for things that are a little bit less fine than these antennae, but maybe I can still make it work. It's so fine where the antenna's attached that the tape may end up ripping just like the paper did. So we'll see. And now I've got little bits of tape showing, so that's another reason why Scotch tape's better. But so I fixed it, and in the process of fixing it, I cut the other antenna. So I have a very wounded specimen here. All right, make sure I've got it going the right way. It's got to go that way. Okay, so flip it over. All right, I'm gonna take a look at the comments and see what you guys have to say about inspiring artists. So Mia says, and the artists who paint with their feet or lips, admiration is not strong enough to describe my deep respect for them, right? They are just incredible. Yeah, that is amazing. So Philippa says she's actually cutting out some large leaves that she painted during the collaging the autumn garden she took with me a while ago. Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. I may be going to stitch them onto my fabric collages. I love it. Rebecca says Frida Kahlo. She was in a lot of pain, etc. after her accident. Yeah, she's remarkable. Just the intestinal fortitude and the strength of, and the originality of her practice and her she had this much larger than life personality, and I think, if she hadn't had that accident, that that her whole, that would have been her every aspect of her life. But what ended up being the case was she had this very fragile body that struggled to keep up with her will and her zest for life. So she was always measuring the number of spoons she had against her zest for life and her wish to express it and live it. So yeah, she's a huge inspiration. a lot of historical artists probably had mental health issues too, like Van Gogh, Da Vinci. Yeah, I mean, um, they say that that genius and madness are very close, right? And artists have always thought, like average quote unquote people have always said that artists are mad, and there is the madness that of creativity, and then there's madness, and those things overlap too, right? We all know some artists we admire, but we like, yeah, they're a little worrying as well, right? So, um, and I don't mean that as a like that the way I phrased that made it sound like I'm passing a judgment. No, I mean like I've had mental health issues. I think most people, I think we're sort of more a lit just that little bit more aware of it. Well, there's a long way to go yet, but that yeah, no, they have my sympathy hugely, right? To be able to overcome or manage mental health issues and still make work. It's so admirable. Um, so Mia says, please say hello to beautiful Kim. I absolutely will. I was looking for what was dinging around me. Right, yes. My if this were Zoom, it often sort of Zoom has audio filters that cut out things that aren't voice. Um, but yeah, YouTube I don't think does. So so yeah, you got the dings. Sorry about that. Um, and as is classic me, I see we're don't have that much time left in the jam, and I again got just a very small amount of what I imagined was a reasonable amount to do during class or during the session. So yeah, so because I'm seeing little snippets of the tape, it's a little bit annoying, but they're back on more or less. So um, all right, so let's take at least one of these and get started, at least with the next step. So what I'm thinking is to sort of study the pattern of the white of these sort of pale yellow shapes, um, cut simplified versions of those out, leaving the black, and then I can slip a piece of yellow paper underneath. So I'll start with the abdomen and the head, because that sort of decides which side of the butterfly that these are the wing space shapes will be on. So we've got sort of this there's shape that goes here, and then it kind of disappears because of the angle, because we don't see that side of the body very much. And it divides there, but that's too small, so I'm going to generalize and just make it a single chunk. I say that, and then I realize, and still I'm being way too ambitious in terms of detail for the size I'm working at. So I will have to simplify further. I'm sure I'm up to it. Actually, I'm not sure I am at all, but I'm going to keep trying. Now, this area is more white than yellow, but I am going to include it because I think it's important. I think it could just be yellow. It could be generalized to be yellow. All right. Oh, so interesting. All right, so I missed a little bit, it looks like, but oh well. All right. Sorry, guys. I don't mean to go silent on you. I'm just looking intently, so I get lost in the moment or in that process. Not intentionally. So I thought I'd do the other wing first, but apparently I'm doing this one now. This seems to be the direction I wanted to go. So, all right. At some point, this has to become individual. Maybe not. All right, let's put that one in there so I have it as a reference. On the edge there, that shape. There. Actually, it kind of connects to the one I'm cutting. And if I do that, no, let's go off that part first and then that part. Do you guys talk to yourself as well? I mean, I know that I'm working away here and but both Kim and I now realize we talk to ourselves incessantly. So if you came into our house and we were both working on something, you'd think there were these, like that Kim was having her own conversation over there and Kat was having it over at this end. And every once in a while we're like, did you say something? No, I'm just talking to myself. So, all right. Well, apparently it's 3:30 and I'm not very far along. So I'm gonna keep going for another minute or few minutes. If you have to cut out now, I completely understand. I'll just mention that our next jam is in 2 weeks' time, and that's already into November. I can't believe that. So November 3rd is our next one, 2 weeks from now, and the prompt is symbols. So if that's something that you're interested in, then you can start running that through your creative filter and see what ideas come from that. Or you could just show up and and riff in the moment. There's no right or wrong way, and you can change it depending on the day and how you're feeling, right? So, all right, so I am trying to cut this. It's got a couple little things, and then it goes down, and it sort of goes at an angle there. And so coming at the other side, it's not the angle. I should have cut it at. Oh well. Well, it's cut now. I can't fix it now. Which I think is good for me because I think if I can endlessly fix something, then I'm tempted to. But if it's like, all right, I've cut it, I can't fix it now. That can be liberating, right? So. All right, we go to like that. And swoopy thing there. And then another swoopy thing. Yeah. I'm doing it again. I'm getting too complicated. All right. I am going to I'm going to try to finish this one wing, such as it is, such as I have made it, and so that I can show you just briefly what it looks like to have the yellow show through it, even though it's not quite what I was. Oh, it's not too bad, I don't think. All right, but I have to sort of find where it's not actually completely cut so I can get it out. And then I'll wrap it up. So if you guys have created a collage on this subject, or if you have another collage you want to share, please feel free to post it to our Virtual Collage Jam group, Facebook group, which I know most of you guys belong to, and we can see what you were cooking up. Oh. You know, I'm at that annoying stage, just trying to get something out for that I've cut out, but I haven't cut out absolutely every last little bit. So I'm trying to separate it without tearing it. Okay, so where's one of my yellow sheets? There we go. So that's the idea, such as it is. And then I would cut around the perimeter, I was going to say, so that I'll have a butterfly in yellow and black. So, but I have to do that wing and a few of the little wing details yet. So work in progress. As always, cat spitting off more than she can chew. So to be continued. So I'm just going to switch over to sign off and see what your last final comments are. And switch to my computer glasses so I can actually read them. All right. So Mia says, thank you, Kat. I have to leave this lovely reunion now. I will rewatch the full session later. Awesome. Happy creating and everyone, and be well. It was great to have you, Mia, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the replay. That's awesome. Rebecca says, got to go meet my grocery delivery. Thanks, Kat. You probably left already, but it was nice to have you here, Rebecca. Thank you. And Philippa says, a good example of that is Joyce Wieland, who struggled, yes, within a world of male artists in the 60s and 70s. And that was a real time of, I feel like I'm sure it's been centuries, right? But it seems that the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s was a particularly, for male artists, a really ego-driven, right? The guys who like drank like fishes and smoked like chimneys and argued and had really big egos. I think hiding very fragile egos, right? But for sure, that was a tough time to be a woman, right? And what work she made! Oh my God, yeah. She represented now at the AGO, right? Yes, show worth seeing. Yeah, is there yeah, so I definitely want to see that. I know a fair bit of her work, but I don't know. I'd love to see more. So yeah. You're very welcome, Michelle. Lovely to have you. And I will see you again soon, tomorrow. So thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in a fortnight for symbols. And meanwhile, keep on collaging. And thank you very much for joining me. And I'll definitely pass along wishes to Kim. So yeah, thanks very much. Take care.